I think I was always really like proud of being Korean for some reason. Ever since like I was a kid, I don't know why, but I think like after I understood like power dynamics in America, I was like, yeah, like I wish I were white. But even now, when I learn more about Korea and what Koreans do, I think like rather than conflict, I've just learned to like embrace it.
I realized I was Korean in the sense that like when I was in elementary school, there weren't a lot of people like me. But in high school, when I ended up going to a Korean high school, that's when I realized like, oh, I'm American. There was this huge battle within myself about like, oh, am I more like Korean American or like Korean Korean, because I had to live both those lifestyles in order to kind of fit into the mold.
One, two, three.
Okay, speed.
Yes.
Well, first of all, a lot of my friends had parents or they moved from Korea, but I was born and raised here, so that in itself was very different because I spoke English as I was growing up and I never really learned how to speak Korean.
My parents and I moved to Colorado when I was 1 years old, so I'll technically be like a generation 1.5 or something like that.
I am second generation. I think, yeah, second generation in this sense that like my parents are both from Korea, but they did meet. They met each other at grad school here in the States.
My parents, they they always like cooked Korean meals and always ate and tried to talk in Korean. And Korean was my first language, but what happened was I actually forgot it a few months after like I moved to America.
I think through that, because they're first generation, there's like Korean culture is a huge part of who they are, and they wanted to instill that with me as well. So even now they would always ask me like to speak in Korean to them because their English is failing, which kind of bothers me because they both have PhDs after writing like dissertations in English.
Some of my friends that moved from Korea, they would feel a little bit too like the culture is different there. So in terms of culture, we would think a little bit differently. But then because I'm not fully American in the sense that my parents did teach me about some of the culture from Korea, I wasn't like completely American in that sense.
Even then, they try to instill a lot of like the way we respect our elders, or just like your love for Korean food. That's something that like they really wanted me to like inherit from them. I feel like Koreans have a stronger sense of like camaraderie. Like I feel like when you speak Korean to like a Korean, there's a sense like a closer sense of family, and I feel like a lot of the other like Asian races like they can relate to that because I think using their mother tongue like reminds them of home and like maybe talking with like a long lost sibling or a long lost family member, and so I definitely felt that.
The culture in Korea has a lot of things that's geared towards cuteness and stuff like that, and I just wasn't very used to that while I was growing up. So when my friends would act cute or just like say cute things or like aegyo, if they started doing that, I would be like, whoa, what are they doing?
I think people who are like Koreans, they don't really understand kind of the struggles that a lot of Korean Americans have in terms of identity. Because in Korea, it's a very homogenous country, and if you're born there, you're raised there, your parents are Korean, like of course like you're Korean. But if you're from here, like you're not always going to look like the standard like Korean person that you see on like Kpop. You might not even be able to speak the language or even like have a taste for like spicy food, and so it's like kind of like, am I really Korean?
I try not to feel like a deeper connection with Koreans because although I was a part of that kind of culture, there are aspects of it that can be a bit, I guess, unhealthy, like the whole underclassmen, upperclassmen like hierarchy that could be a bit intimidating. Also the huge drinking culture, which I'm like not a huge fan of either. But I think because I came from that kind of environment, and I came from a school where that wasn't as that wasn't a huge problem. I feel that although I don't particularly enjoy that, it's easy, or like try to like actively connect myself to that. It's definitely easier for me to, I guess, connect with them if I want to, because I was a part of that at one point in my life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because as I said, I didn't speak Korean at all before. But then as like K-pop was on the rise and as K-dramas became popular, I started listening to music in Korean, and I watched dramas that had English subtitles. And honestly, because of that, I've learned a lot of the Korean that I know now.
I first heard about K-pop when I was in elementary school, and one of my Korean friends went up to me and she was like, "Do you know Wonder Girls?" And I'm like, "No, who's that?" And then yeah, I listened to it and I got really into like K-pop and K-drama.
Like Big Bang or Girls' Generation and Shiny, and they also introduced me to a lot of K-dramas like Boys Over Flowers, and we would just like watch that together. And I think it was very inspiring because coming from like watching a lot of like American acts to realizing that there are people who do the same things but they're Korean really inspired me, and to think, oh, so like Koreans can do that too. Koreans also have like an impact on like entertainment and how it like crosses like cultural barriers.
I think it has like really defined and shaped Korean culture for me when I grew up, and I had this like really like ideal image of Korea, and I wanted to like fit into that ideal image of what it meant to like be Korean, or at least what I saw on like YouTube in K-pop music videos. I think, but that was also like really toxic for me because that kind of really made Korea one-dimensional for me, and kind of gave me this really shallow image of what it meant to be Korean, and at the same time I was nothing like that, and I strived to be like that, and I think that took a really huge hit on my self-confidence too.
I felt it in high school when like all my friends were Korean, or like I don't know what that means, but like they were all internationals. So then I like didn't really fit in with them. But then if I wanted to talk to people who were like more American, then I also didn't really know what to do because I was like smack dab in the middle.
And I just remember this one time, my mom used to like assist the kindergarten teacher, and I got into like a fight with one of my classmates, and I ran over to her crying, but because I couldn't speak in Korean then, I couldn't communicate to her. And I think that was like one of the like big pivotal moments of my life. Yeah.
I feel like because of like my like as I said, my parents instilled a lot of Korean values and like philosophies and whatnot. They make up who I am essentially. Like my personality traits come from the fact that I am Korean, and I have been taught to like respect my elders and do all these things. And as a result, I feel like my Korean identity is such a huge part of myself. It's like if I were to like push that to the side, I feel like I don't know what kind of person I would be. And yeah.
Cut.